What is up, Go World? It is me, your boy JDZ, and I'm back at you again with another Go Format video. This time I have a little news report for you all. This past week, there was a major glitch that was identified on Duelingbook.com. Again, huge shout out to those duels that came forward with that information. And also, huge shout out to Duelingbook.com for coming on in and patching that glitch relatively quickly so we can get back to playing online in a safe manner. However, when they patched that glitch, there was a unintended consequence, if you will. The glitch that kept Convulsion of Nature banned has now been fixed as well. So, GoFormat.com will now be unbanning Convulsion of Nature for online play.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Which subsequently means that Royal Magical Library is now available to be played in GoFormat.com online events.
Son of a bitch!
So today I just want to kind of talk about that deck, talk about what that might mean for the metagame coming up as we're making a push to the Go Format World Championship, and also maybe talk about some ways to play against it and what it might mean for that metagame. Okay, so without further ado, make sure you guys get on the like button, subscribe to this channel, and also turn your notification bells into the on position. First, I would like to talk about the deck, Royal Magical Library, what that is, and how it's played. So basically, Royal Magical Library is a combo deck that uses and abuses the card Royal Magical Library by playing a ton of spell cards and drawing your entire deck through a combination of ways. Basically, it's going to be Archfiend's Oath, Convulsion of Nature, and Giant Trunade all over the place, gaining tons of counters, drawing your entire deck. But as you're drawing your deck, you're going to be self-burning your life points by playing cards like Tomb World and also Archfiend's Oath, paying that cost over and over and over again, crashing if needed, etc., etc. Once your life points get to a certain amount, typically below 500, you are then going to play the card Reversal Quiz. Reversal Quiz says send all cards in your hand and on your side of the field to the graveyard. Call a type of card, spell, trap, or monster on the top of your deck. If you call it right, exchange your current life points with your opponent's current ones. So if you're playing this deck, you obviously know what's going to be the top of your deck because you're drawing your entire deck, you know what's going to be left. You're going to get that call right, you're going to switch life points, and then you're going to blow them up, typically with Black Pendant, and get a win. This deck is consistent, and it does have an FTK potential. So again, when you're playing this format, no one likes to play against FTKs, no one likes to participate in FTK. A lot of people don't like to use FTKs, but I do feel that this deck is going to be becoming a part of our game. People will play this deck for whatever reason, I don't know. Someone's going to play this deck. Personally, I don't think the deck is very good. And it's one of those either you win or you lose kind of things. And Go Format, people who come to Go Format typically don't come for that. They like the back and forth. They like the exchange stuff. They like playing against an opponent. So still, I just kind of want to talk about that. And we could talk about some cards that I think you can use to kind of help yourself if you are terrified about playing against a deck like this. The first list of cards I kind of want to talk about are cards that you're probably already playing right now. You shouldn't have to change your deck very much. Just kind of some techniques to think about when you are playing against the library matchup. The first card that I'm going to talk about is going to be Book of Moon. Okay, Book of Moon is a great card in this matchup. However, I know a lot of people are going to say it immediately. However, library is highly predicated on Giant Trunade, so they're probably going to Giant Trunade you, or any decent library probably is going to Giant Trunade you before they do anything. But if they don't, they go with Royal Magical Library, start building up some counters, then you can play a timely Book of Moon, reset that Royal Magical Library to stop them from drawing, and then it could be a difference maker in winning and losing. So I think this card is good enough, especially if you're already playing it anyway. No big deal. It's probably not the best card, but it's definitely something to consider. Another card that kind of fits into that category is going to be Trap Dust Shoot. Now, I know, again, the Royal Magic Library deck plays a very low monster count. However, if you are playing Trap Dust Shoot already, and you can send back that Royal Magic Library, or you can get a peep of what their hand is, and you kind of know how that deck works, you can get an idea of what cards that you need to negate, how to better use your other cards, and at a high roll, you can send that library back to their deck, and then you can kind of get mega aggressive and push for damage if you can get more turns. So I think Trap Dust Shoot is another great card to at least continue playing if you're not playing it already. Another card I want to talk about is going to be Regeki Break here. Regeki Break is great too because it can destroy the library, but it also can hit those problematic continuous spell cards. As they're doing their loops, they're going to keep putting them down, keep Convulsion of Nature, keep library. You can hit the Regeki Break, pop that library, no problem, and you're in and out of there. Because typically this deck, if it doesn't kill you within the first few turns, you're probably going to win. And if you can just interrupt them ever so slightly, you're probably going to win. So a card like Regeki Break can do that. Another one is going to be Solemn Judgment, basically for the same thing. So all three of these last trap cards I just said in tandem, in harmony together, you trap does shoot, you see they have like basically 1 or 2 plays, you Regeki Break one of them and you Solemn Judgment the other one, you're probably going to win that match every single time. But still, you know, it's a deck that can beat you before you get a chance. So if you don't have a chance to put these cards on the field, then there's really not much you can do. But still, I would continue to play Solemn Judgment if you're already playing Solemn Judgment. The next one we'll talk about is going to be Dust Tornado, and to a lesser extent, Mystical Space Typhoon, for those same reasons. Going after those continuous spell cards that they put on the field is going to be another way that you can win. They're going to have to play Archfiend's Oath. They're going to have to play Convulsion of Nature. And if they don't Trinade you and you destroy those cards, you're probably going to win. And the last one I want to talk about for the cards that you're already playing is going to be Ring of Destruction. A timely Ring of Destruction on the freaking Royal Magic Library, or even on the Thunder Dragon sometimes. They'll have the Thunder Dragon up and their life will already be below the amount that you can, that they can live, because they're trying to set you up for the Black Pendant play. You Ring of Destruction at the right time, you can win. But typically that's probably not going to go off because they've already giant trinaded you a billion times before that has happened. So it's very unlikely that that's going to go down, but it still could. And also hitting the Royal Magic Library with the Ring of Destruction at a timely point could also just be the difference between winning and losing. So I think these are cards great. Just think about when you're using them and how to use them. You can easily just take that match from a 50-50 to a 60-40 to a 70-30 very easily. All right, so these next cards I'm going to talk about are going to be cards that you can throw into your side deck now that won't make you overhaul your entire strategy and really won't cost you that much, just a couple of extra slots if you are terrified that you might encounter that matchup. And they still could be good in other matches as well. The first card I think that can fit that category is going to be the card Magic Jammer. Okay, Magic Jammer, I think it'd be good against Reasoning Gate. It could be good against Burn in some matchups. It could be good in a lot of different things. But also, if you can get a timely Magic Jammer against an opponent's Royal Magic Library playing their Giant Trinade, you can just basically win right there. So I think Magic Jammer is a great card. By lesser extent, I'll throw Magic Drain in there because they're going to have limited resources. So if you can get a timely Magic Drain, they're going to have to throw another spell out and it might throw off what they can potentially do, especially if you're using it in tandem with other cards that I've kind of already gone over. Another card I want to talk about that a lot of people may consider, may not, it might be a little different. I think Cyberstein is great. I think Cyberstein is another great card because with Cyberstein, you can turbo out the Dark Balter the Terrible and still have enough life points to get a few negates in. And like I said earlier, just a few negates or a few interruptions in their game plan, then you can typically kind of just walk away with it for the most part. So having Cyberstein, turbo out Dark Balter turn 1, and then see what they can do, and then you can just kind of aggress them from that point. So I think that's another card that could potentially see some play. Another one is going to be very, very obvious, and this is going to be the Spell Canceller. I think Spell Canceller is going to be great against the Reasoning Gate stuff, and it's also great against the Royal Magical Library stuff. So if you can get this guy onto the field, you essentially just immediately win the game for the most part. You know, I think some of those decks, they might side in like Compulsory, they might do some things like that, but most of the time they don't. And if you can get this thing onto the field, you'll just instantly kind of walk away with it. Another one that I would like to consider and bring him back, maybe he can find himself back to the metagame. This card was a meta player for a while. It's going to be Des Wombat. It's going to be Des Wombat. If you can stick to Des Wombat, they don't really play a lot of outs to monster effects most of the time, at least by the old deck list that I've seen. I'm not the best Royal Magic Library player. I don't think I've ever played that deck once, to be completely honest. But still, I've seen it go down, and I kind of know what they're trying to do. And a lot of times they don't have a way to just get the Wombat off the field, aside from crashing maybe Thunder Dragon or something into it. But if you can just get this thing on the field, and it could just stick, okay, they can't win because they're going to have to burn you in order to win that game. And if they can't burn you, then they can't win if this guy's just up and active. So maybe it might be an idea to go back to the Des Wombat. You can just protect this thing, get them to stick on the field, and that could be the way that you do it. Another one is going to be the Hollow Life Barrier, and by extension, I'm going to put Pikiru's Circle of Enchantment in there. Hollow Life Barrier for the same reason. Like, they can't, if you have this and Des Wombat, they can't kill the Wombat, and they can't do any damage to you. Or if you have this by itself, they can't do damage to you. And if you have Pikiru's Circle of Enchantment, they can't do damage to you. These cards are pretty great because if they're comboing off and you did get a turn and you do have this card and you did set it up on the field, they can't, and they play Trinade, you can chain it and they literally can't win that turn. They'll have to just either pass or they'll have to go through their whole combo and not win. and it's going to be another turn you can get. And every turn you get playing against that deck is going to be a step closer to where you want to be. The more turns, the better. So playing Hollow Life Bear is a guaranteed turn. Bakira's Circle of Enchantment is a guaranteed turn, and the rest of these cards are going to present obstacles for your opponent to kind of try to get over. So these are the cards I think you can kind of start to include into your deck, and they won't hurt you too much. Maybe a slot or two here or there, and you also can use it for other matchups. Like I said, Death Wombat is still going to be good for burn. Hollow Life Bear is still going to be good against OTKs and burn. Bakira's Circle of Enchantment, same thing, still decent against burn. All these cards are playable in their own right against certain matchups, so I would consider at least thinking about maybe dedicating a slot or two to this library minute. So these last cards I'm going to talk about are cards that are, if you just know, like, hey, I'm going to be playing against someone who is playing the Royal Magical Library strategy. Like, this is no lie. I know that this person is coming up and I know they're playing this deck. So I would, and you have an opportunity to change your deck, I would consider maybe thinking about using these cards. And the first one I'm going to talk about is going to be the Gravekeeper's Watcher. Okay, this card kind of got used when Library was kind of on the scene a little bit. This card kind of got used because it can stop Graceful Charity and it can stop card destruction. Two cards that they will play against you. And this card, the benefit of this card, unlike the other cards that I've gone over, is that you can play this card on your opponent's turn. So you will have some counterplay. They go Graceful Charity, you can negate it, and that might be the difference maker. They go card destruction, you can negate it, that might be the difference maker. So I think this card, if you're really terrified and you think that you just want a chance to play, this card actually gives you the opportunity to play on your opponent's turn. So it might be worth considering. The next one I want to talk about is going to be Spell Vanishing, and by extension, I'm going to put Cursed Seal of the Forbidden Spell up here too. So both of these cards generally do a very similar thing. Spell Vanishing has a very steep cost. You have to discard 2 cards, but if you negate a Giant Trinade or a Archfiend's Oath, or if you hit one of the combo pieces, all of them are gone and it's out of there. It's gone. You know, you can hit them all at one time. And same thing with Cursed Seal of the Forbidden Spell. You do have another steep cost on this. You have to discard a spell card, which you may not have all the time. But if you can hit the Giant Trinade, or if you hit the Convulsion, or if you hit the Archfiend's Oath, it's gone for the entire duel. Like, it's out of there. It's completely out of there. And I think this card actually saw some play. It's really good against Reasoning Gate and all other combo type decks, you know, Empty Jar and things like that. So if you can Curse Seal, maybe you can hit the right thing at the right time. Absolutely just in that duel right there on the spot. You don't have anything to worry about. Another one kind of in that same vein a little bit, but typically a little bit different. I think it might be a little bit better. It's going to be the Anti-Spell Fragrance. I think this card is cool, but again, it's going to be a little bit slower, a little bit less resilient than the other 2 cards that I said, because you got to get a turn, set it up on the field, then you play it. They can't play any spells, and you got to come back over the top with some type of activity. So you got to start pressuring your opponent, because they can start setting their spells too, and then they can start Giant Trinading you, and then they can eventually get to where they want to be. So it's a little bit slower, a little bit softer, but still pretty damn good. And it also can cover other matchups as well. Just like the next card I want to talk about is going to be the card Cold Wave. Cold Wave, same thing. If you can get a turn, go first, play Cold Wave on your opponent, you know, summon some guys to the field, they're gonna have to just pass most of the time. Unless they got Library, they can set it. If they're so bold, you can get a turn, and then maybe you can get another Cold Wave, or you can get another one of these other cards and then continue to go on that way. So just getting more turns, I think Cold Wave is definitely going to be another card that equals a turn against your opponent. And finally, the last card I want to talk about, and I think this card could be pretty cool, pretty spicy tech to go after Library, is going to be Prohibition. And I know this card was kind of played heavily back in the day, at least in my local area. A lot of people are playing Prohibition. And basically, if you come out Prohibition, you put out Giant Trinade, they're going to have issues. They do play Heavy Storm, and I believe some of the decks play Mystical Space Typhoon, maybe. I think they can probably work around that if you can get Heavy Storm. But if you can get 2 Prohibitions, one for Heavy Storm, one for Giant Trinade, they're going to have an issue. They're going to have an issue playing against you. So I think Prohibition also, but it might be hard to kind of put it against other things. Maybe you can put in your side deck Prohibition, Giant Trinade, and against Reasoning Gate or Pot of Greed or something. I don't know however you're going to do it. I think that card is decent against in the Royal Magical Library meta. But these are the cards I think could be played. Again, speaking about the metagame, talking about the metagame, what it might mean going forward for tournaments. Like I said, I don't think the deck is good enough. I think players who value consistency, they're not going to go towards Royal Magic Library. I do feel that newer players who come in, or newer players who are so used to the advanced game, they're going to flock to this deck because it kind of mirrors what the current game is. You know, huge combo plays, trying to be consistent and trying to win and trying not to let your opponent play. Kind of goes right to the wheelhouse of current players coming into GOAT format. So I would look out for it. I think this deck is going to be played. So just try to protect yourself. and at all times, and not let it dissuade you from playing some Ghosts. But again, as always, I want to hear from you guys. Get into the comment section down below. Let me know what you think and what cards you guys are going to be out there playing, and what techniques you do to when you find yourself in a Royal Magic library. I know me, I just kind of scoop and go do something else. You know, but if it's in a tournament and you can't do that, tell me what you guys like to do. But as always, go ahead and like and subscribe. I'm JDZ. I play Ghosts. And next time, shout out to all the real ones. Salute to the OGs. Peace.